What is up everyone? In today's video we're going to be going over my top builds for the sword and shield. Let's jump right into it. Before we go over the builds, I wanted to go over a few pointers. The first one being the talisman. For a majority of these sets, you only need a talisman that gives you at least 2 deco slots with at least a level 2 value. For example, in most of these sets I use this particular talisman, which gives me a level 2 evade extender and evade window with a level 3 slot and a level 2 slot. A talisman with evade skills aren't necessary, but I prefer to use evade extender. So use a talisman with skills you prefer just as long as it has 2 slots with at least a level 2 value. Going into our first set, we are going to be using the Royal Order. If you wanted to just build one set for the sword and shield, this would be the one. This set would do great in every situation. The Royal Order gives you a good chunk of purple sharpness to play with, has great damage output, and we're getting 100% affinity when attacking weak spots. One thing to note is if you're going to be playing multiplayer, it would be wise to switch out the offensive guard decos for Wirebug Whisperer decos, just because it might be harder to hit Shoryugeki in multiplayer. Other than that, this is a great option for any player that wants to get started with the sword and shield. Now we will be going over our elemental sets, and for our first one we will be utilizing the Gates of Heaven. First of all, what a great name for a weapon. Just by the name alone, you know this weapon gotta be godlike, and it is. This is going to be our best set to use against monsters weak to the dragon element. This weapon has great damage stats, we get 90% affinity when attacking weak spots, and to go along with it, this weapon has great sharpness, so you don't have to worry about sharpness management. Overall, this is going to be your best set to make for the dragon element. For our next set, we have our Thunder build, and we will be utilizing the Stalos Rapier. The reason we're opting for the Stalos Rapier for our Thunder build is because of its balance of great attack and elemental damage, and it starts us off with 20% affinity, which we are able to get to 100% with the combination of critical eye and weakness exploit. Now we do only get a sliver of purple sharpness, but that problem is solved with protected polish. Overall, this is going to be your best set to make for the Thunder element. For our next set, we have our Fire build, and we will be utilizing the Inspirited Ifrit. The reason we opt for this weapon for our Fire build is a balance between the attack damage and its elemental damage. This weapon doesn't give us additional affinity, but we are able to get it to 90% with the combination of critical eye and weakness exploit. It does give us that sliver of purple sharpness, which we are able to take advantage of with protected polish. This is going to be your best set to make for the Fire element. Next, we have our Ice build, and it will be utilizing the Deora's Maelstrom. By now you should notice a trend here in our elemental selections, but it's the same reasoning as the other builds for the selection of this weapon. It has great damage and elemental stats, it gives us a bonus of 10% affinity, and it gives us a sliver of purple sharpness. The other ice sword and shield that can compete with this one is the Goss Harag sword and shield. You really can't go wrong with either of the two, so use whichever you prefer. Besides that, this is going to be the best set to make for the ice element. Going into our last elemental set, we have our Water build, and it utilizes the dual scissors. There are some great options you can use for this Water build, but the reason I went with this weapon over the others is for the additional slots you get, and you get a nice defense bonus. You do lose out on additional affinity, but you really can't go wrong either way, so use whichever you prefer. Besides that, we get great damage output, and we get a sliver of purple sharpness we can preserve through protected polish. Other than that, this is a set to make for the Water element. For our next set, we have an interesting one for you guys. This set utilizes the Dirty Graph. If you're a fan of using bashing combos, this is a set for you. This weapon has great damage output, good poison buildup, and we get 90% affinity when attacking weak spots. We do only get a bit of white sharpness, but we add 2 levels of handicraft to give us more cushion to add slashing hits for more damage and more poison application. This is a really fun set to use, and I highly recommend it to anyone to add to their collection. Going into our last build, we have my favorite sword and shield set, and it utilizes a Spiritstealer. This has to be one of my favorite weapon designs, and that is why I use this set the most. It may not be the best set to use, but it can hang with the others. This weapon has great damage stats, and we do get a little chunk of purple sharpness. We are getting all the essential damage boosting skills, and for a change, this set uses Master's Touch, which I am a fan of. Other than that, if you're a fan of this weapon, this is a set to make to optimize its potential. And that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you to the ones who watched the video all the way through. I do my best to keep these videos short and concise. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Keep the comment section active, and until next time guys, I'll see you in the next video.